In the course of my life, I meticulously orchestrated every move to secure the affections of Shinhanzhou, only to find myself entangled in a bitter partnership of resentment with him. He devoted his love to the false heiress who had basked in my fortune and glory for over a decade. Thus, he harbored animosity towards me. He loathed me for causing his childhood sister to descend into madness. His disdain was further fueled by the myriad of transgressions I committed, leading to the utter ruin of the Shin family. Yet, in the end, it was he who knelt upon the jade steps, bartering his very life for my chance at survival. He spoke, "Jiang Yenyue, if only time could be reversed. I would rather have never extended my hand to you that day." When I opened my eyes once more, I found myself transported back to the year when I was first recognized by the minister's residence. Before me stood a man still in his youth, his features soft and gentle, Shinhanzhou. "This time, I shall let you go." I gazed upon the faces before me, once vibrant, yet now seemingly lost to time. A sense of disorientation enveloped me. My brothers, their expressions fraught with urgency, pressed me relentlessly. "Jiang Yenyue, where have you hidden Achan?" It dawned upon me that I had been reborn into this very moment. I had lured Jiang Chan out of the estate, employing a band of ruffians to orchestrate her fall from grace. Upon my return to the Jiang household, I consistently found myself at odds with Jiang Chan, both overtly and covertly. Everyone bore witness to this. Moreover, Jiang Chan's maid had emerged to identify me, accusing me of summoning her away. While I returned unscathed, Jiang Chan had vanished. The perpetrator was all too evident. In my previous life, I had adamantly claimed ignorance, asserting that I had merely accompanied Jiang Chan on an outing, only to have her go missing. By the time she was located, not only had she lost her virtue, but the trauma had rendered her mentally deranged. I never perceived my actions as erroneous. After all, Jiang Chan had basked in luxury all these years by usurping my rightful place. I merely reclaimed what was mine. What fault lay in that? In my youth, I had been abducted by enemies, and in an effort to spare my mother from heartache, a baby girl had been brought in to take my place. Later, my captors informed my mother that I had been discarded after their theft, destined for reincarnation. My mother, heartbroken, fell into a decline and eventually passed away. Meanwhile, I had been rescued by a couple, only to be sold to a wealthy family along with my jade tablet inscribed with a character for yen when I was 6. Due to my foster father's gambling addiction and my foster mother's frailty, I spent many years as a maid in the Zhang household, only for it to be obliterated by some unknown powerful entity. During a famine, I found refuge with a benevolent family distributing rice. The young lady of that house was not only stunning but possessed an elegance and grace, coupled with a compassionate heart, as she personally engaged in charity outside the city. She was Jiang Chan. Her nurse recognized me almost instantly, for I bore an uncanny resemblance to the late mistress, compounded by the jade tablet I had retained since childhood. It was then I realized that I was no mere maid, Xue Xiaoyan, but the legitimate daughter of the minister's household, Jiang Yenyue. While my father and brothers harbored feelings of guilt towards me, we were not closely acquainted. Their primary concern always remained Jiang Chan naturally. This troubled me deeply. The only one who discerned my true identity was Shinhanzhou. On the day of my return, while everyone fretted over whether Jiang Chan would be upset, he approached me, extending his hand. "So this is little sister Awa? Truly as adorable as I imagined." It was perhaps at that moment that the seeds of obsession began to take root in my heart. 2. In my past life, after Jiang Chan was retrieved, I was still immersed in the joy of my impending union with Shinhanzhou. Little did I expect that it was Jiang Chan he sought to marry. My vision blurred with rage, and I found myself questioning whether it was I who had gone mad, or Shinhanzhou. Jiang Chan had already lost her purity. Even if he wished to marry her, the Jiang family would never permit it. Why, amidst the storm of scandal, did he still desire to wed her? Thus, I resorted to drugging Shinhanzhou, shedding my garments to lie beside him, and framed him for this scandalous affair. I coerced him into marrying me. Yet after our nuptials, he never once set foot in my courtyard. It became painfully clear that his heart had always belonged to Jiang Chan, even in her sullied state, even in her madness. I could never compete with her. In a bid to absolve myself of the suspicion of having wronged Jiang Chan, I conspired with assassins from the Tianji pavilion, intending to eliminate the bandits. However, Years later, the Tianji pavilion colluded with foreign powers, and the flames of chaos followed me, engulfing the Shun household. To my astonishment, Shun Hanzhou, alongside my brothers, knelt on the jade steps of the imperial palace, taking upon themselves all blame. The male heirs of the Jiang and Shin families were sentenced to execution, while the women were relegated to servitude. My final encounter with Shun Hanzhou took place within the confines of a prison. In a frenzy, I demanded of him, "Why save me when you harbor hatred for me? Wouldn't it be more prudent to expose me and quell the emperor's wrath? Why save me, Shun Hanzhou? Tell me, did you ever love me?" Despite his disheveled state, he smiled, gazing at me with a profound compassion. "Do you know why Achan lost her sanity?" I stared at him, stunned. Of course I knew. No one understood better than I. Yet he continued, "After she was abducted, her maid shielded her from the assailants, buying her time to escape. But she returned, believing you were still there." His words struck me like a thunderbolt. "She thought you remained there. She returned to save you, even sacrificing her own dignity. You believed you had orchestrated it all without a trace, yet you failed to consider that one of the bandits survived, and he implicated you." Achan, traumatized, became as innocent as a 6-year-old child. My proposal to marry her was to atone for my sins, as well as for yours. I shook my head in numb disbelief. "No, that cannot be. You must be lying." Shun Hanzhou looked at me, a wretched smile gracing his lips. "Jiang Yenyue, if time could flow backward, I would rather have never extended my hand to you that day." 3. My father, witnessing my prolonged silence, struck me forcefully across the face. "If anything were to befall Achan, I would never forgive you." It was at this moment that Shun Hanzhou arrived, his brow furrowed with concern over Jiang Chan's disappearance. "Aiyue, quickly tell me where Achan has been taken. If this is merely a misunderstanding between sisters, it could lead to grave consequences." At the sound of Shun Hanzhou's voice, tears nearly welled in my eyes. "I know where she is." I no longer had any motive to harm Jiang Chan. Even if she were to meet a tragic end, Shun Hanzhou would likely marry her spirit in her absence. They swiftly found Jiang Chan, and this time, even her protective maid only suffered minor injuries. In an instant, everyone surrounded Jiang Chan as if they had recovered a long-lost treasure. I observed Shun Hanzhou, who sighed in relief at her side, and a pang of bitterness struck my heart. "Shun Hanzhou, if I were to relinquish my infatuation with you, could you perhaps live a long and prosperous life in this lifetime?" The first to notice my gaze was Jiang Chan. She rushed towards me, her voice filled with trepidation. "Aiyue, thank goodness you returned in time to alert the household. Otherwise, I would have faced dire consequences." Upon hearing her words, a hush fell over the crowd. My brothers and Shun Hanzhou wore expressions of remorse, as if regretting having wronged me so easily, momentarily at a loss for words. Jiang Chan, noticing their reactions, hurried to clarify that we had planned to visit the temple together, only to encounter the ruffians. Thankfully, I had been quick-witted and saved her. Her earnest insistence drew laughter from me, startling everyone. Yet as I laughed, my vision blurred. What a fool she was! Unaware of how close she had come to a fate far worse than death, while fervently defending her tormentor. In both this life and the last, I had succumbed to the folly of such a foolish woman. For several days, I remained cloistered within my chambers. My brothers assumed I was merely sulking due to the grievances I had suffered, sending numerous gifts to my quarters. In my previous life, I had exerted every effort to integrate into their lives, yet had never received such treatment. It seemed that merely saving Jiang Chan was enough to win their favor. My elder brother even sent me intricately crafted trinkets, including a lifelike goose with outstretched wings. I offered a perfunctory expression of gratitude. My brother, scratching his nose awkwardly, remarked that I had been excessively docile of late. I couldn't help but scoff internally. It was not mere boasting on my part. If I were to seek employment, not even a second coffin would be in your grasp. Shortly thereafter, the Grand Princess sent invitations to various households, beckoning them to a flower-viewing banquet. Such gatherings have always served as splendid opportunities for forging connections and kinships. Beside me, Jiang Chan chattered incessantly, while I discreetly observed the aristocrats and nobles around us. The current emperor has 3 sons, the crown prince, the 3rd prince, and the 7th prince. Among them, only the 7th prince remains unmarried. He has been bestowed the title of Prince Ning and is soon to embark on a journey to his fief. This flower viewing banquet is likely organized in his honor. The seventh prince, Xiaoji, possesses an exquisite appearance, bearing a striking resemblance to both genders and being of noble lineage. However, few reputable families in the capital are inclined to marry their daughters to him. This reluctance stems from the fact that his mother was the emperor's most beloved consort, yet her family, the Gu, became embroiled in a treasonous plot to usurp the throne. The emperor exterminated the entire Gu clan, sparing only Xiaoji out of lingering affection for the past. Moreover, despite his handsome visage, the seventh prince is an unrepentant libertine, preoccupied with trivial pursuits, rendering him an unsuitable match. Thus, none would anticipate that he would ultimately ascend to the throne. I concocted an excuse to divert Jiang Chan, seeking a secluded spot, only to unexpectedly cross paths with Shen Hanzhou. The man before me had not yet acquired the gravitas of the years to come. He still bore a youthful innocence, yet his features remained as gentle as ever, unchanged through time. As a servant in the Zhang household during my childhood, I had overheard the affluent young masters say, "Love is born of pity. If someone begins to pity you, it signifies they are destined to fall in love with you." Consequently, I wished to evoke Shen Hanzhou's pity. Was I not deserving of it? After all, my loved ones had all been taken from me by Jiang Chan. Besides, while Jiang Chan was dignified, she lacked vivacity. I was far more amusing than she. Shen Hanzhou's gaze began to linger on me. I thought, as long as I have Shen Hanzhou, I could forego everyone else. But Shen Hanzhou is a good man. His pity is genuine, yet it entangles him with my tumultuous existence. Such a benevolent and compassionate soul should not meet such a fate. I spoke harshly to you before, and you have kept to yourself these days. Denying me the chance to apologize, he said. I recalled the heavy words he had uttered when he inquired about Jiang Chan. I thought to myself that he had been too lenient. I had always been the one to initiate conversation, but today, confronted with his sudden silence, Shen Hanzhou seemed unaccustomed and eventually said, "I plan to come and propose in a few days." My heart fluttered uncontrollably. So be it. I had already known the moment I relinquished my obsession. Everything must return to its rightful course. Very well, I replied. Shen Hanzhou's ears flushed crimson, yet I was too preoccupied to appreciate it, merely stating that my maid awaited me. Just as I concealed myself behind a rockery, striving to steady my emotions, a dagger stealthily pressed against my lower back. A low voice resounded behind me, belonging to Xiaoji. "Miss Jiang, how bold you are to conspire with a tiger." "I have my own means, Your Highness. You need only decide whether you wish to collaborate with me," I retorted boldly, turning to deflect his dagger. Internally, I scoffed. Just you? At best, a mere rabbit in this moment. A few days prior, I had sent a letter to Xiaoji, revealing that I knew the whereabouts of the person he sought. This individual was not only of interest to him but also to the crown prince and the third prince. Therefore, although Xiaoji remained cautious, he dared not harm me outright. He could not afford to lose something so crucial. Xiaoji's almond-shaped eyes narrowed slightly, the charm displayed during the flower banquet fading away, replaced by a steely determination reminiscent of the frail emperor from my past life. "What is it that you seek?" he inquired. "I know, Your Highness, that you are not a fish in the pond. I wager that you will prevail." Xiaoji scoffed. "The Jiang family is aligned with the third prince. How can you be so certain I will win?" In truth, Shen Hanzhou had been correct in my past life. His aim was to rescue his own kin, and I happened to be among them, allowing my heart to grow overly sentimental. The demise of the Shen and Jiang families was a consequence of the third prince's failure to outmaneuver the crown prince. The Tianji pavilion merely served as a catalyst. Thus, this time, I had aligned myself with a true power player, ensuring the Jiang and Shen families would not repeat their tragic fate. I refrained from answering Xiaoji's question, instead stating, "You may choose not to believe me. To prevent me from revealing this information, you could easily kill me here. However, I dare say that I am the only one capable of leading you to that person. Should you slay me, you will undoubtedly regret it." I regarded him with a hint of provocation. Truly, a person who had died once spoke with a newfound confidence. Xiaoji hesitated, lowering his lashes, as if deliberating. Interestingly, the last person I had seen in my previous life was Xiaoji. I had been working as a lowly servant in the laundry department. daydreaming while humming a lilting tune from Jiangnan that I had learned during my time as a maid. That was the first time I laid eyes on Xiao Ji. Later, I learned that this exceptionally handsome man was the new emperor, notorious for his brutality and mercilessness. Xiao Ji mentioned that his childhood nurse often sang that very song, albeit with a different melody. I smiled and explained that it was a lullaby from the south, often altering the names of children, resulting in yet another tune. From that moment on, Xiao Ji frequently sought me out. Whenever his headache struck, only that lullaby could provide him with some relief. He confided many things to me about himself. His journey thus far had been driven by a desire for vengeance for his mother. Yet, in his quest for retribution, he lost many important people along the way. To avenge them, countless others perished. It was a relentless cycle. Once he ascended the throne and looked back, he would understand what it meant to be atop a solitary peak, utterly isolated. Xiao Ji summoned me to the palace. He did not demand much, simply wishing to hear me sing and to indulge in the overly sweet pastries I prepared for him. His days were numbered. Beneath his splendid garments lay a frail body. Yet, I did not anticipate my demise would occur even sooner than his. With Xiao Ji's favoritism, I became a target of envy, leading to a cup of poisoned wine that swiftly concluded my muddled existence. I still recall, in my final moments, Xiao Ji rushing toward me, eyes filled with panic. At that moment, I thought, how pitiful. It turns out that, despite his status as the sovereign of the realm, he had orchestrated countless schemes, only to find that he, too, never attained what he truly desired. I agree to your proposal, but you are the unmarried daughter of the Jiang family. How will you assist me in locating that person? His words snapped me back to reality. It appeared Xiao Ji had finally resolved his internal conflict. Each step he took was fraught with difficulty. Yet, in this lifetime, with my presence, he might suffer less. I had already devised a plan. If I were to marry Xiao Ji, he would soon depart for his fief, thus facilitating my movements. However, the Jiang family was closely aligned with the third prince, and although not immensely powerful, they wielded a certain influence within the court. If I were to marry him impulsively, it would attract the attention of both the crown prince and the third prince, not to mention the potential disapproval of my family. Thus, I conceived a strategy. Nothing would provide a better means of escape than being considered dead. After the flower viewing banquet concluded, I once again withdrew from society. However, Jiang Chan continued to pester me relentlessly. On this particular day, Shen Hanzhou visited, discussing matters with my father. In a fit of kindness, I served Jiang Chan a plate of pastries. Noticing her distracted demeanor, I suggested we stroll through the garden. Jiang Chan hesitated, then asked if I knew why Shen Hanzhou had come today. Of course, I know he is here to propose. In my previous life, it was also on this day that he sought to marry Jiang Chan. The tension in Jiang Chan's body dissipated instantly, replaced by a look of relief. Ah, so you are aware. I shall extend my blessings to you. I pondered, could it be that she has truly lost her wits in this lifetime? Jiang Chan, discerning the bewilderment etched upon my face, inquired, are you not aware that brother Hanzhou has come to propose to you? I was momentarily taken aback, exclaiming, how could Shen Hanzhou ever marry me? What about you? This marriage was meant for you from the start. Besides, brother Hanzhou does not harbor any affection for me, she replied, her voice diminishing to a whisper, ultimately revealing a bitter smile. Moreover, I have no desire to marry. I yearn to roam the world, to witness the vastness beyond. Her dejected demeanor incited a mix of anger and amusement within me. Jiang Chan, are you pitying me? Thinking that you are graciously relinquishing Shen Hanzhou to me? Huh? Jiang Chan gazed at me, her expression a mix of confusion and denial. That was not my intention. I grasped her frail shoulders, glaring at her fiercely. You owe me this, and whether or not I wish to accept it is my concern. I do not require your pity. With your foolishness, how could you possibly hope to travel? You be sold before you even step outside your own door. Jiang Chan was on the verge of tears at my scathing words. Indeed, my disdain for her ran deep. I reached out and shoved her into the garden pond. In her wide-eyed terror, I heard myself whisper, I despise you, but you should remain forever innocent. I did not shy away from anyone as I pushed Jiang Chan into the water. The maid screamed and rushed in to rescue her. The commotion reached the front courtyard, drawing a crowd. I had no defense for my actions. My father trembled with rage, pointing an accusatory finger at me. Your mother, so virtuous throughout her life. How could she give birth to such a venomous daughter? They must have believed that Jiang Chan resembled my mother far more than I did. But what could I do? I had never even met my biological mother, unaware of her true nature. Shen Hanzhou's eyes were filled with disappointment as he regarded me. Sister Au, why did you do this? Perhaps he regretted his decision. After all, I found myself reborn at this moment. Had it been earlier, I would have gladly complied with his wishes, preferring to have never crossed paths with him.
Why?
I laughed foolishly. Because I despise you all. Jiang Chan is a lady of privilege, a highborn daughter. When she selects her maids, do you ever consider how many years I have spent as a servant? When she bestows charity, do you ever reflect on the moments when I fought dogs for scraps? You all knew it was I who lured Jiang Chan out that day.
Did you not?
Yet you feigned harmony, merely to spare her feelings, which I find utterly revolting. I loathe all of you. Why is it that what rightfully belongs to me is bestowed upon her? Why is she granted affection, while I am met with only guilt? A wave of heat coursed through my face, yet within my chest, I felt a sense of liberation. The words I had harbored for 2 lifetimes unexpectedly spilled forth. Silence enveloped the room. This was indeed a deadlock. My father sighed, commanding that I be confined to my chamber until Jiang Chan regained consciousness, at which point decisions would be made. I ordered everyone to leave. Jiang Chan had consumed a delicacy laced with something that would keep her asleep for a spell. Alone in this exquisite chamber, I faintly recalled the joy I felt upon first entering. In the darkness, a candle flickered to life, only to be extinguished by my hand. On the other side of the Jiang estate, Jiang Chan was saved in time, yet she remained unresponsive. The atmosphere was laden with gloom following my earlier outburst. My brother spoke first. Even if she harbors resentment, she would never go so far as to put her sister in jeopardy. My father sighed again. If we are to discuss right and wrong, we are at fault in greater measure. She is sensitive. How could she not perceive the distance between us? It is I who have wronged her, resulting in this rift between sisters. It was at this moment that Jiang Chan slowly awakened. The first words out of her mouth were, "Where is you?" My brother, torn between anger and concern, replied, "You still think of her? She certainly does not think of you." Jiang Chan, however, burst into tears. "No, you must have her reasons. I feel she did not truly wish to harm me. She appeared so sorrowful then. You must fetch her. I wish to hear her side." My brother, exasperated, placed his head in his hands. "Your kindness is precisely why you are so easily bullied." Just then, an uproar erupted outside. Someone shouted, "The water is rising. The water is rising." Everyone was taken aback, hastily rising to see what was amiss. The source of the blazing flames was none other than the courtyard of the second young lady of the estate. Xiao Ji still had not secured his princess. Yet he was an uncherished royal, and just days prior, he had incurred the emperor's displeasure, suspecting he was deliberately delaying marriage to remain in the capital. The emperor had banished him to his fief. After all, once a prince leaves the capital, he is entirely removed from the race for the throne. Inside the carriage, Xiao Ji closed his eyes in repose. However, the guards beside him regarded me with contempt. I have never seen a woman so audacious as to allow her master to smuggle a corpse into Jiang Manor, aiding you in your covert endeavors. Do you not realize that this action will strip you of your identity as a Jiang heiress? To go so far as to do this? Could it be that you harbor feelings for the prince, aspiring to become his concubine? Even someone as composed as Xiao Ji found their words rather jarring. Only then did I turn my gaze to Gu Ju. In my previous life, I had not encountered him. I had only heard fragmented tales from Xiao Ji. Gu Ju was a guard left to him by his uncle, but in truth, he was his cousin. Sadly, he had passed away early. Miss Jiang, I do not wish to pry into your reasons for leaving Jiang Manor, but I have fulfilled my promise to you. And you must honor your promise to me. Xiao Ji opened his eyes slowly, a glimmer of coldness flashing within. Yet I waved my hand dismissively, unperturbed. Of course. Let us go fetch her now. I led Xiao Ji to a rural field, twisting and turning, having taken the wrong path several times. Gu Ju was infuriated, nearly drawing his sword, accusing me of leading them astray. At that moment, a dilapidated thatched cottage came into view. I pointed it out to Xiao Ji, signaling for him to knock. An elderly woman opened the door. Her appearance was grotesque, with much of her face disfigured, her eyes clouded and vacant. Yet upon seeing her, Xiaozhi froze, tears nearly spilling forth. He softly called, "Grandma Wen." The old woman seemed oblivious, showing no recognition of the name. However, when her murky gaze fell upon me, there was a fleeting moment of clarity. Her voice was hoarse yet warm. "Is that you, Yen?" Grandma Wen was someone I had known during my time as a maid in the Zhang residence. Back then, we did not refer to her as Grandma Wen, but rather as the ugly old woman. She was not only unattractive but often seemed to be of unsound mind. The steward, feeling pity for her, had begrudgingly provided her with a place to stay, assigning her menial tasks while keeping her away from the noble guests. I was the youngest when I entered the manor. Though my adoptive parents did not treat me poorly, I longed for home. The ugly old woman was the one who cared for me the most. There were moments when she would gaze at me with fleeting lucidity. She recounted how she once had a little master who would cry through the night, and she would sing to soothe him. During my time as a maid in the Central Plains, I had never heard the tunes of Jiangnan.
It was she who taught me.
The sweet pastries that could melt one's heart were also her creation. She claimed they were the favorite of her little master. Eventually, the household dispersed, and during my flight, I lost her. In her previous life, Xiaozhi relentlessly sought her, yet the disfigurement of the ugly old woman, with half of her face ruined and the 2 red moles on her hand scorched away to conceal her identity, made her elusive. Coupled with the escalating severity of her madness, finding her proved to be an arduous task. By the time Xiaozhi finally located her, she was in the throes of insanity, with mere days left to live. Of course, Xiaozhi was not the only one in pursuit of her. Following the palace coup, Granny Wen had narrowly escaped with her life, clutching evidence implicating the current empress in the treachery against Xiaozhi's mother. Thus, everyone sought her out, either for proof or to silence her. Eventually, Xiaozhi leveraged this evidence to vindicate his mother, orchestrating a remarkable turnaround. He brought Granny Wen back home. As night fell, I illuminated the corridor with the light from my room, gesturing with the newly sewn knee pads. After all, having once been a maid, I still possessed the foundational skills. Yet, after 2 lifetimes of living in a manner untouched by the simplest tasks, my hands had grown clumsy, resulting in knee pads that were crooked and unappealing. Xiaozhi's father was hardly a commendable figure, abandoning his son in such a harsh environment. Nevertheless, in this life, I hoped for Xiaozhi to remain on the throne a while longer. I could not allow him to be burdened with a host of ailments. When Xiaozhi emerged from the room, his eyes were red-rimmed. In the past, I had only seen him in a state of languor, unaware that his youthful spirit could also radiate such vitality. Granny Wen failed to recognize Xiaozhi, likely due to the stark contrast between his present self and the young master she remembered. However, she was not beyond redemption. One day, she would recall. I once heard Granny recount her experiences in the palace, which is how I learned of her identity and your affairs. I fabricated to Xiaozhi. He would likely never realize that all he had shared with me had been divulged straight from his own lips. Fortunately, with Granny Wen present, the situation was deftly resolved. Gu Ju's expression shifted dramatically. He understood better than anyone the significance of Granny Wen to Xiaozhi. "Miss Jiang, I sincerely apologize for any offenses I may have caused. I hope you can overlook my transgressions." I suppressed a smile, responding with magnanimity. Alas, after such a long journey, my body aches. How I long for a warm bath. Guju immediately grasped my unspoken request and hurried to fetch water. Under the ethereal moonlight, I leaned against the wall, observing Xiaozhi's somewhat solitary figure, and began to hum a tune from Jiangnan. After a considerable pause, he softly uttered, "Thank you." His words drifted away like whispers in the wind. In the provincial capital, power was divided, and Xiaozhi, this prince, held nothing more than an empty title. Even a formidable dragon cannot suppress a local snake, let alone an uncherished prince. In his previous life, Xiaozhi endured considerable hardships before he stirred the murky waters of his fiefdom. During my self-imposed seclusion, I diligently recalled significant events that had transpired in recent years. Fluctuations in grain prices and land values would inevitably be influenced by these major occurrences. Armed with such knowledge, how could one despair of profits? When opportunities arise, who would not wish to partake? When others perceive your utility, invitations will naturally follow. Before long, Xiaoji had established amicable relations with the provincial officials. Another winter arrived, with heavy snow blanketing the bamboo outside. Dressed in a newly tailored black fox fur cloak, he leaned over his desk, his nimble fingers gliding gracefully across the paper. Finally, unable to endure my gaze any longer, he looked up and asked, "How long do you wish to observe?" Each time I beheld him in this refined demeanor, I could not resist teasing him. "Your Highness is quite handsome. Why not allow others to admire you? I heard that many women in the capital were eager to catch a glimpse of your Highness, even to the point of injury." His ears flushed crimson, and I sensed that he felt somewhat sullied by the reputation of a dandy in the capital. After a prolonged silence, he managed to utter something nonsensical. "No women came to see me. That is mere fabrication. Even if they did, I had no interest in them." I offered a perfunctory response, though my thoughts wandered far. At this juncture in his past life, an incident of great import occurred due to Xiaoji's beauty. The commander, Zhou Mo, had an affinity for charming individuals, regardless of gender. In his previous life, Xiaoji had submitted to him, thereby breaking through the ironclad barriers of his territory. The image of that frail figure resurfaced in my mind. What thoughts occupied Xiaoji at that time? Perhaps I would never know, for in this life, he need not tread the same path again. I would ensure his involvement. Social gatherings among the elite were plentiful. For convenience, I occasionally masqueraded as Xiaoji's concubine, accompanying him to banquets. Zhou Mo's gaze fell upon me once more. He had repeatedly hinted at wanting me to join him, and I had consistently declined. However, this time, he resorted to threatening me with Xiaoji. Prince Ning thrives in his fief. The two in the capital are at odds. And they surely wouldn't wish for a mantis to catch a cicada, only to find a yellow bird lurking behind. Once the banquet concluded, Zhou Mo seized my arm. Xiaoji grasped my hand, his intense gaze fixed on Zhou Mo. Yet, Zhou Mo remained undaunted. "Is His Highness so petty? Miss Yen has consented. Why won't you let her go?" I obediently nodded, stealthily passing him my handkerchief amidst Xiaoji's astonishment. Zhou Mo, growing impatient, insisted that I return to his residence first. He presumed my reluctance stemmed from modesty. "Xiaoji, that young fool, knows nothing of tenderness. This little bird of yours will inevitably find solace in my embrace. With me, you will naturally enjoy immeasurable wealth and splendor. Xiaoji possesses nothing but a pretty face and some cunning." I smiled behind my hand, prompting Zhou Mo to eagerly advance. In the next moment, his expression of desire froze in shock. "You!" I kicked his rigid body away, twisting the dagger lodged in his chest before yanking it free. Zhou Mo collapsed, blood splattering across my face. I spat upon him, a smirk gracing my lips. Truly, he was a vile creature. Even his blood reeked.
Jumontak.
A ruffian by nature, acted with arrogance and had made numerous enemies, yet he remained blissfully unaware of his fate. He had no inkling that he was the one to be eliminated. Xiaoji stood outside, his guards having surrounded the area completely. "Zhou Mo is dead. Your Highness may now install your own people. Surely, the magistrate will not refuse such a request." In the secret chambers of the Zhou residence, there are various beauties imprisoned, one of whom named Zhang Wen is particularly valuable. He was destined to meet Xiaoji within the Zhou residence, eventually becoming Xiaoji's right-hand man. This was precisely why I had to intervene. Should another act first, it would result in the loss of a key ally for Xiaoji. Yet, Xiaoji remained motionless, his face flickering in the firelight, taking on an almost ghostly appearance. As he looked at Zhou Mo, his voice was resolute. "You hate him." I was taken aback. Upon returning home, I was seized by a fever, and in the surreal landscape of my dreams, I saw Xiaoji relentlessly interrogating me. "Do you hate Zhou Mo?"
Why?
Look into his eyes. They are filled with hatred. "Did you know him before?" I felt as though I was on the brink of understanding. Why did I harbor hatred towards him? Yet, in an instant, I saw Jiangchan, Shenhanzhou, my father, and my brother. Their heads fell one after another, blood flowing like a river. In the liminal space between sleep and wakefulness, someone tirelessly wiped my face. He murmured softly, "What could possibly warrant such an extreme?"
Ah Yen. Can you tell me?
I heard myself murmur drowsily, "Shenhanzhou." The warmth of the hands upon my face suddenly stiffened. In the blink of an eye, it had been 5 years since I departed from the capital. In the capital, the third prince and the crown prince were embroiled in a fierce conflict, teetering on the brink of mutual destruction. Naturally, Xiao Ji and I did not refrain from sowing discord between them. The court was in turmoil. The evidence regarding the Gu family as tragedy had also been presented to the emperor's desk. The emperor summoned Xiao Ji back to the capital in secret. In a previous life, Gu Ju met his demise at this very juncture. On the journey back, Xiao Ji fell into an ambush. Though Gu Ju was exceptionally skilled in martial arts, he took a blade meant for Xiao Ji and did not receive timely medical attention. After careful deliberation with Xiao Ji, we concluded that our movements had likely been compromised, and it would be prudent to avoid the original route. Together, we opted for a secluded path. Gu Ju led a contingent of elite soldiers along an alternate route, feigning to escort Xiao Ji. However, we were caught off guard once again. Thankfully, the number of their soldiers on the smaller path was minimal. Yet, in an effort to protect me, Xiao Ji sustained an arrow wound. I managed to lead him to a remote inn, believing the storm had finally passed. I thought that once Xiao Ji regained some strength, we could set forth to reclaim the capital. To my astonishment, a group suddenly arrived at the inn, searching for us. Their intentions were far from benign. I immediately instructed Xiao Ji, "You have regained some strength. Should the situation turn dire, escape through the window at once. I will hold them off." Xiao Ji, pale and frail, clutched my hand tightly, saying, "I will not leave you. I refuse to abandon you." His words evoked a mix of exasperation and amusement within me. "Xiao Ji, what heroics are you attempting to display? Do you think you are alone in this? How many stand behind you? Gu the Guardian, Lady Wen, Zhang Wen." He tightened his grip even further. "Why do you not count yourself among them?" His gaze, filled with sorrow, pierced through me. I felt a pang in my heart. "Xiao Ji, why do you still wear such an expression in this life? Can you not tell me why you have come to my side? Why do you always gaze at me in a daze, as if you were looking at someone else? But I am nothing like Shin Hanzhou."
Yen.
"Could you grant me clarity?" I covered his mouth, feeling helpless. "I had no idea you could be so clingy and petulant. How could someone as perceptive as Xiao Ji not see through my unusual demeanor?" I sighed, resting my forehead against his, lowering my voice. "Once you ascend the throne, I shall reveal everything. I believe you will triumph. You did so 5 years ago, and I have faith you will do so again." Just then, a forceful knock echoed on the frail door of the inn. I rose, donned my veil, and opened the door, my palms slightly damp with sweat as I forced myself to remain composed. When I lifted my gaze, I found myself staring into a pair of eyes that were achingly familiar. It was Shin Hanzhou. Upon seeing me, Shin Hanzhou froze in place. After several years apart, encountering his visage felt as if I had crossed into another realm. His presence indicated that the third prince was behind this. I furrowed my brows, swiftly devising a strategy. "May I inquire about the purpose of your visit, esteemed sirs?" If it were merely a matter of resemblance, how could his voice echo my own so closely? Shin Hanzhou trembled as he reached for my veil. The moment his fingers brushed against me, I recoiled in shock, turning my head away. When I faced him again, my eyes brimmed with indignation. "What is the meaning of this, sir? I am but a virtuous lady. I cannot endure such reckless actions." A few of his attendants frowned, ready to advance, but Shin Hanzhou halted them. "Forgive me, it was my rudeness, but this lady bears a striking resemblance to a dear friend of mine." Of course, she bore that resemblance. Might I be permitted a glimpse of a lady? I furrowed my brows and quickly interrupted. "Are you asking me to lower my veil now, only to demand more of me later? I may be but a frail woman, yet I cannot be deceived by flimsy excuses. My reputation cannot be so easily tarnished." That lifeless figure in the mansion had been chosen to match my stature. Despite being charred like coal, she adorned the jewels and ornaments I typically wore. Even that jade plaque inscribed with the character for Yen was upon her. No one knew better than Shin Hanzhou that his dear friend had long since passed. One attendant seized the opportunity. "We are here in search of someone. How could a lady be alone in such a place? Is there a man present?" I widened my eyes, tears streaming down my cheeks as I flung open the door. My maidservant merely went to fetch water. "If you do not believe me, feel free to search the premises. If you slander me, I might as well perish." My words struck a chord with Shin Hanzhou, whose composure faltered as he dismissed his entourage. This place is of no significance. Let us search elsewhere. A heavy weight lifted from my heart. After all these years, he had not changed a bit. He remained as easily manipulated as ever. Shun Hanzhou now wore an expression of remorse, his cheeks tinged with crimson. A flicker of pain in his eyes. I apologize. It was only because the lady resembles a dear friend that I acted so thoughtlessly. I hope you can forgive me. I have missed her too much. Upon returning to the capital with Xiaoji, the tides turned dramatically. The crown princess and the crown prince had amassed considerable power, inciting the emperor's suspicions. Seizing upon the matter of harming loyal subjects, the emperor deposed both the crown princess and the crown prince. The third prince basked in a moment of glory, as if the throne were already within his grasp. Little did he know that his reign would be short-lived. His clandestine recruitment of soldiers and acts of corruption were soon unveiled. The third prince must have been at a loss as to how his most closely guarded secrets had materialized into damning evidence laid bare before his father. It was as though he had been stripped of all defenses, revealing truths he had not even fully comprehended. In a fit of rage, the emperor fell gravely ill. He posthumously honored Xiaoji's mother as empress and declared Xiaoji as crown prince, appointing him as regent. It was then that the court realized the depth of Xiaoji's years of concealment. The emperor's health deteriorated further, and upon investigation, it was discovered that he had been poisoned by his beloved third son, causing him to cough up blood. Before long, the emperor passed away. Xiaoji ascended the throne. Amidst the tumultuous upheaval and the shifting of power, the court was rife with trepidation, including the Jiang and Xun families. The new emperor conducted a thorough reckoning, bestowing rewards and punishments. As remnants of the third prince's faction, they were perpetually under the threat of an impending blade, uncertain of when it might fall. When I received the imperial decree and returned home, an inexplicable wave of anxiety washed over me. A sentiment I had never experienced even when I was first recognized by the minister's residence. Guilt and filial affection mattered little now. In my previous life, they had ultimately spared my life. It was time I repaid them. Upon my arrival, my father and brothers, along with Shun Hanzhou, stood at the entrance. When Shun Hanzhou looked at me, a flicker of astonishment crossed his face. You are. His shock was understandable, considering he had seen me in this guise just 2 months prior. Taking a deep breath, I removed my veil under their watchful eyes. Recently, Xiaoji had been exceedingly busy, not only managing state affairs, but also dealing with his anger. I inquired with genuine concern, "What has caused your distress, Your Highness?" He scoffed, flinging the documents he held onto the table. Over the years, he had grown taller, his demeanor imbued with a newfound seriousness. When he refrained from smiling, there was an undeniable air of authority about him. I heard that after Shen Hanzhou saw you, he fell gravely ill. Now that he has recovered, he is petitioning the emperor to arrange a marriage between you two. I raised an eyebrow in surprise. So that was the cause of his ire.
Oh.
Has your highness consented? Xiaoji looked at me as if I were a fool, his expression darkening further as if recalling something unpleasant. Considering the ties of kinship, naturally, Jiang Aiqing is more fitting. I must consult you before making any decisions. Otherwise, how could I arbitrarily dictate matters of a heart? I seldom encounter him in such a peculiar and sardonic demeanor, and I cannot help but feel an urge to tease him. After all, this is a significant matter in life. I must consult with Brother Shin before making a decision. Fortuitously, I have an appointment with him today, so I shall take my leave. Upon hearing this, Xiaoji was taken aback, his eyes wide with disbelief. What? He could hardly fathom that I had accepted it so nonchalantly and was in such haste to depart. However, my intention today was not to meet Shen Hanzhou, but rather to see Jiang Chan. The last time I delivered the imperial edict to the Jiang residence, we merely exchanged hasty pleasantries. The courtyard I had set ablaze had been restored, its furnishings and decor unchanged since my departure. The only exception was a small wooden carving of a wild goose at the head of the bed, clearly crafted by an amateur, revealing its roughness in every detail. My father and brothers had reddened eyes, as if they had much to say, yet I found myself at a loss for words. I merely promised to meet again another day. Consequently, I received news from Jiang Chan yesterday. This time, she truly intended to travel the world. I am sorry. Jiang Chan lowered her head, her eyelashes trembling softly. I was perplexed as to why she was apologizing to me. In truth, on the day you self-immolated, a part of me felt a strange sense of relief. My brow furrowed, nearly believing I had misheard. At that moment, I thought if you were dead, Brother Hanjo would marry me. But it was then that I realized Brother Hanjo's affections lay with you. Even in your absence, he would not marry me. I think I am beginning to comprehend the hatred you spoke of that day. It is this very sensation. After she spoke, a bittersweet smile emerged on her face. Yet it was more sorrowful than tears. The room fell silent, and she resembled a prisoner awaiting judgment, anticipating my decree. I had never imagined Jiang Chan harbored such thoughts. My body erupted into uncontrollable laughter, prompting the maidservants to believe I was on the verge of madness again. In truth, it was I who felt liberated. At last, I've caught you. I told you there was no way you could be as virtuous as they claim, as pure and flawless. Upon hearing this, Jiang Chan's face flushed a deep crimson, her hands awkwardly brushing against her cheeks, as if one more word from me would cause her to bash her head against the wall in shame. I'm so sorry. I truly am wicked. What must I do for you to forgive me? I was left speechless. Indeed, there was little to say to someone like her. I produced a jade tablet engraved with a wild goose and tossed it into her embrace. Jiang Chan stared at me in bewilderment. Didn't he say you were going to wander the world? You think you can traverse mountains and rivers with your useless maidservants and a few guards? I've assigned some individuals to discreetly protect you. Keep this tablet safe, and they will safeguard you should anything arise. Jiang Chan gazed at the jade tablet, her eyes sparkling, before leaping up to embrace me. Ayu, thank you for sending someone to protect me. You are so kind. The fragrance of magnolia wafted from her hair, lingering at the tip of my nose, refusing to dissipate. I pushed her away in disdain, letting out a cold laugh. Humph. It's merely because I fear for your safety. Otherwise, I would be the one searching for you. I believe this time I have truly conceded. Words, it seems, should not be carelessly spoken. I had painstakingly concocted a multitude of excuses to extricate myself from my father and brothers. Yet, upon exiting, I fortuitously encountered Shen Hanzhou. He was clad lightly, perhaps due to his recent illness, his complexion somewhat pallid. His inky hair was loosely gathered with a green jade hairpin, a few strands cascading down his neck, clearly indicating he had rushed here. For whom was evident. I lifted my gaze to the gently falling snowflakes and kindly cautioned. I have heard that Lord Shen has just recovered from a severe illness. You must take care of your health. Shen Hanzhou forced a smile. Thank you, Sister Ayu, for your concern. I nodded slightly, intending to leave when he called out to me. Ayu, if in this lifetime I were the first to remember everything, would our fate be different? I paused, feeling as though something within my chest was gradually collapsing. Yet it felt like a release. Shen Hanzhou was a moon that once illuminated my path. Alas, he was a full moon, leaving no space for me to intervene. I turned back to him. Shen Hanzhou, are we not already different? In this life, we had not become resentful partners, tormenting one another. The ones we cared for had not perished. Snowflakes landed on his long lashes, melting from his warmth before gently sliding away. Indeed, he replied, his expression unchanged, a smile gracing his lips, devoid of emotion. Shen Hanzhou thought of her love for the moonlight that bathed her, yet perhaps he had never truly loved the moon. Upon my return to the palace, I found Xiaoji pacing in the study. He caught sight of me from the corner of his eye, quickly seated himself, and pretended to read a book, entirely unaware that he was holding it upside down. He then seemingly casually inquired, "How did it go?" I nodded, responding, "Quite well. Everything has been made clear." Xiaoji leaped up in disbelief, staring at me. You truly reached an understanding?" I nodded again. Hadn't we come to an agreement? With Shen Hanzhou possessing memories of his past life, there was no need for further discussion between us. Even if I achieved nothing in this lifetime, the undeniable truth remained that a chasm had once existed between me and him, filled with Jiang Chan and countless lives lost. Perhaps this was for the best, sparing us from needless words. Xiaoji approached me, searching my face for traces of jest, yet found none. He lowered his voice. "Then what of me? What do I amount to?" I suppressed the urge to smile, turning away to avoid his gaze.
Consider it my pity for you.
Suddenly, silence enveloped us. I grew concerned. Surely I hadn't genuinely upset him to tears? I would undoubtedly hear from old Madam Wen about my bullying him. Yet, before I could turn back, a warm body pressed against me. On the palace tiles, our shadows intertwined, resembling both a tangle and a dance. Then why not pity me for a lifetime? At the beginning of this rebirth, I had contemplated whether to simply follow Jiang Chan's path and become a refined lady, striving to be virtuous. With my past memories, I certainly could have avoided the pitfalls of my previous life. Yet I did not. I chose a different path. Perhaps at that moment I already knew the answer. Epilogue 1. Recently, Xiaoji has been in good spirits, save for the occasional sighting of Shen Hanzhou, who inexplicably draws near him. Of course, he is not approaching Xiaoji, he is gravitating towards Jiang Yanyu. This, in turn, irks Xiaoji. Yet, he cannot overtly display his displeasure, lest he appear petty. Although Xiaoji believes that if Jiang Yanyu had any discernment, she would not take a liking to Shen Hanzhou. Just in terms of looks, he surpasses him significantly. Moreover, Shen Hanzhou seems to have previously lingered between the sisters, sowing discord amongst them. Such a man is hardly worthy of trust. Nevertheless, one must consider that he was her youthful infatuation. His significance in her heart undoubtedly differs from that of others. Why else would she call his name even in her dreams? Yet, Shen Hanzhou possesses some talent and conducts himself impeccably, making it impossible for Xiaoji to find fault with him. Contemplating this only serves to vex him further. Thus, this jar of aged vinegar must be turned over from time to time. Finally, one day, Jiang Yanyu could no longer contain herself and hurled a jade pillow at him. If you mention Shen Hanzhou once more, you may as well go back to him. Realizing he had provoked her ire, Xiaoji hurriedly approached to placate her. In the midst of soothing her, he inadvertently made himself feel aggrieved. When you were in the fief, feeling down, you would drown yourself in drink, then gaze blankly at me while calling out Shen Hanzhou's name. Moreover, on that day at the inn, you promised to tell me, yet upon your return, you sought him out and even referred to him as brother. The women I cherish cast me aside like a worn-out shoe. What is the worth of a throne obtained through such painstaking efforts? Jiang Yanyu, initially furrowing her brow, found herself increasingly amused as she listened. Who claims that I have treated you like a discarded shoe? Do you perhaps have another woman you fancy? Xiaoji fell silent, acutely aware of Jiang Yanyu's skill in turning the tables. With a few more words, he knew he would be laden with accusations. Just when he thought he would leave without answers, Jiang Yanyu unexpectedly turned over and pinned him down, sealing his lips with hers. If you wish to know, I shall reveal it to you gradually, if you please. Extra Chapter 2. Xiaoji experienced a harrowing nightmare. In his dream, fate was not kind to him. He had never encountered Jiang Yanyu. Thus, his journey was fraught with hardship. No one was there to protect him. After ascending the throne, he took vengeance on his former enemies. While people condemned him for his tyranny and folly, they simultaneously feared for their own lives. He remained indifferent. Finding satisfaction in their terror, it was only fitting that all should fear him. This way, those he cared for would not perish. After avenging himself, he was at a loss for his next course of action. Consequently, he aimlessly wandered the imperial palace, akin to a specter ensnared within its confining walls. In his youth, he had witnessed such individuals, referred to as the mad concubines of the cold palace. Xiaoji felt apathetic, accepting whatever fate awaited him. Perhaps reminiscing about the past, he suddenly heard a familiar melody that stirred his heart. In his childhood, he had basked in the affection of his father and mother, indulging in mischief. Only old lady Wen could rein him in. Whenever she sang, he understood it was time for him to sleep. It is said that before death, one reflects on their entire life. Had the messengers of death come to claim him? Following the tune of that Jiangnan ballad, he did not encounter the Grim Reapers, but rather a woman. Her features were relaxed, her gaze devoid of luster, yet it was evident she had once been a beauty in her youth. She could sing that very song. Xiaoji visited her daily to hear her sing. That dilapidated and cramped palace became the sole place he felt at ease. Upon discovering his identity, the woman displayed neither surprise nor fear. It dawned on him that they belonged to the same ilk, accepting whatever fate bestowed upon them. Xiaoji took the initiative to investigate her background. TSK, TSK, TSK. Quite the nefarious character. Words failed to encapsulate it all. Yet, suddenly, her smile intruded upon his thoughts. He inquired how she learned that song, and as she lowered her head, a rare smile graced her usually expressionless face. It was taught to me by someone who treated me well when I was a maid. Did she also harbor regrets? Perhaps, had she remained merely a lowly maid, she might have found greater happiness. Xiao Zhi had always loathed those with malevolent intentions, yet he found himself sympathizing with her plight. As his health waned, he lacked the strength to traverse the palace merely to listen to her sing, so he summoned her to his side. If he were to pass unexpectedly, it would be comforting to have someone aware of his existence, wouldn't it? However, he never anticipated that she would depart before him. Indeed, he had never been able to safeguard anything. He approached her slowly, carefully wiping the blood from her lips. Then, he closed her still warm eyes. If there is a next life, may you be a wild goose soaring across the heavens. The end of the tale. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next story.